folks, and welcome to another day in the Milky Way. And tonight we got a great show for you with all kinds of good stuff. Tonight we're talking about a special woman, Ann Bailey, who was one of the mountain women, and she did great things. With my co-host, David All, Hawkeye Two Feathers. Welcome to the show.
And greetings and blessings to all y'all. And if you think this is Tuesday, you fell asleep. This is Thursday. We're 2 days later in the week, so buckle up. We got a good show tonight, and oh man, I gotta move my little. We got a good story. It's called "How Raven Brought Fire to the Indians," and I would say that Raven brought it with a great deal of care without burning himself. So, but we greet you with the love and the honor of the infinite creator, and we always continue to pray that you're doing well. So thank you, Robert, as always. And instead of Tuesday, it's a Thursday. Doesn't matter. Welcome to all y'all Milky Way Soul Tribe folks.
Yes, welcome.
And everybody else.
That's right. Tonight we got, we're going to be talking about a woman mountaineer who was out there in the sticks, which is kind of interesting. It was hard to find a woman one. I've been looking for one, which is kind of cool. So I thought we better talk about her. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And, back in the day, one of the reasons it was hard to find a woman is because the men didn't want to talk about them,
Well, yeah, they were put in their place. They weren't really allowed to do stuff. They were pretty much, you're the housewife, cook, clean, take care of the kids, plant the garden. I'm the hunter. I'm the man. I'm going out to do my thing. And you tend the house, wash my clothes when I come home. Now, do I believe that women should do all that? Not that much, but I do believe that the man is supposed to provide for the house. But the woman, can she do it? Yes, but not as well as a man. She doesn't have the muscle. She doesn't have the strength. She may have the willpower to continue and try, but for a man, it just comes naturally and easily, a lot easier than it does for a woman. And what is a woman cut out to do? Well, she's a nurturer. I mean, come on, people. We all have to do our part. You don't have to say, women can do everything. Women can do things. It's just that not every woman can do things. And we have to look at it that way. In nature, the mama bear, she's tough. And she will fight to the end to take care of her cubs. But,
and the mama badger.
Mama badger. But she's a nurturer. She's a caregiver. A papa bear, he'll come in and he don't care. He just kill the cubs and then move on. He doesn't look at it the same way as the woman. And again, in human life, a man, is functional. He is logical. He's a constructor. He's the one that will build a house for the family, but he don't want to sweep the floors and cook the dinners when he's building the house. While the woman sits there doing what? Is she going to go out there and hunt the deer while he sweeps and cleans and takes care of the children? Just not, people. It just doesn't work that way. And if you want to think otherwise, you go right ahead. Be free to do so. But it's, it's the facts of life. Women are just born natural caregivers. Is that not true? What do you say to that?
They're born nurturers.
Yes, they have a lot more emotion than a man.
And that's one thing that no matter, there are a lot of men that have compassion, and they care for their families. That's why they go out and hunt and do what they do to drag it back to the cabin, is because they care about their family. And so, and the woman, the pioneer woman now could do one hell of a lot. She could go out and shoot a deer if she had to. And there were times I was thinking of, Daniel Boone, who got stuck out in the wilderness for a while and couldn't get back to the house. And Mama had to take care of the youngins, And there was a story about one time where she was being stalked by some white men who came up to the cabin looking for old Daniel. And she was like, well, he'll be back in a couple of hours. And she didn't know when he was going to be back. And so what she did was before the men came back, she snuck out of the cabin and hid in the woods and kept an eye on the cabin to see what would happen when them men came back. Well, sure enough, they came back to be rebel rousers and, break in the house and everything. And she was out there hiding behind a tree. And about that time, an Indian snuck up behind her and scared the living daylights out of her. And she was remarked to say, I thought he was going to kill me. And all he did was put his finger up to his lips and tell her to shush. And so there were other Indian braves that had come around, and they had seen. They often kept an eye on the cabin while Daniel was gone, unbeknownst to her, and they just happened to see these two guys lurking around her cabin. So, but anyway, it just so happened she got out of the cabin and the Indians took care of the guys. And, but she could have been hurt. Daniel was away and it was just so happened that the Indians were their friends at the time, but you never knew back then. Now, this day and age, there are crazy people that I was listening to that, there are some folks who broke into a basement and carved out a little spot behind a washing machine, went into the wall and started living in the wall of this people's house.
Yeah.
All switched up and then when the people would leave, they'd get out and walk around and watch TV and eat out of the refrigerator, and people would come home and wonder who ate the tuna fish salad and who drank all the beer, and and it was somebody living in the basement in behind the washing machine.
Yeah.
So anyway, that ain't got nothing to do with tonight's story.
Well, in a way it does, but like I said, it talks about the women, they can do things. They can't do everything, but they can do things. And I think sometimes we forget that. But like I said, it's not every woman. Just like it ain't cut out for every man. But men are orientated to being builders, fixers, and
protectors.
And protectors, yes. They're providers, protectors, all of those things. And that's true. And then for thousands of years, men have been doing those sorts of things. And should they keep on doing them? Yes, absolutely. Women have been nurturers and caregivers and, things like that for thousands of years. They're better suited to that. And to switch the roles around is hard because it's bred into you, just like it's bred into us being a man. Same with a woman. But every now and then we have an extraordinary woman that rises to the top and becomes more than just a caregiver. And that's who we're talking about tonight. This is Ann Bailey. And this here, if I can get the picture up fast enough, is Ann Bailey. Let me see.
And any pioneer woman was a brave soul.
Yes.
We just got to put that right out there. Any pioneer woman was a brave soul. Now, they're the women in Philadelphia, in 1880. Okay. No, but them women that was in 1880 that was out on the prairie and walking behind a wagon train, them pioneer women, they were brave.
That's right. That is so right. Well, so here we go with our show tonight. Let me do the intro to tonight's show as we bring this on. And here's my little video of Ann Bailey. So there you go. Tonight we'll be riding back into time before roads, before fences, before the West had a name. The frontier was alive with danger. Shawnee parties in the woods, redcoats, spies in the hills, and settlers clinging to life behind timbered tree walls. Into the storm rode one woman, a widow with a rifle across her saddle and vengeance in her heart. That woman was Ann Bailey. They called her, but the soldiers whispered another name, Mad Ann Bailey. Mad Ann for short. She rode farther and faster, fierce than most men dared, carrying gunpowder and messages through the wilderness, soaked in fear. Some said she was touched by madness, others said by courage, but every man at Fort Lee lived because of her. Tonight, we'll tell her story, the forgotten heroine of the Kanawha, the woman who provided that the frontier has no rules and no limits, not even for a lady in buckskin. And here we are tonight. Join us where we ride beyond the myth and into the truth. So, and there we go. Mad Ann Bailey. And what do you think of that? I got it. You got to love the video. Let's play one more time. I made this with AI. I am practicing with AI, and this was all done with AI. And it was my creation, kind of. It looks pretty real, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm practicing. Maybe I'll have, good stuff later on. But as we go through this tonight, we're going to be talking about this woman, Ann Bailey, and mentioning her. Let's see, share screen. Oh,
and what fort did you save?
Fort Lee.
Lee.
I think. Wait, hang on.
Was it Fort Lee? Yeah. I think that's what you said. Me and my old age and my hearing. And so, where is Fort Lee located? So,
actually, this was in the south, in the southern states. I think over in Kentucky. I'm not exactly sure where this all took place, but we're going to find out in a minute. But this was out. This was before people went across the Mississippi. So she is over in the eastern states, in the Appalachians, Kentucky, Tennessee area.
So what year are we looking at, my friend?
Well, we're looking at probably the late 1700s, early 1800s, somewhere in there. So let's
1810, 1815.
Yeah, somewhere in that framework there. So we are going to talk about her and where her story begins.
And so she is sort of the prerequisite of the pioneer woman.
Yes.
She sort of established what a pioneer woman could be, would be.
Well, exactly.
That's probably stretching it, but she was early on to set the example.
Yeah, because she was born in 1742 in England and migrated over here. So like I said, it was late 1800s, Her ride for Fort Lee was right around 1777 or 78, somewhere in there. But we're going to find all about that here in a minute.
So like she was here for the Revolutionary War.
Yes, absolutely. Again, immigrants, and she was one of them. She was, one of those immigrants who came to America, wanted to be an American, and fought for freedom, fought the Indians, and made a place for herself in the histories of America. So here we go. Anne Bailey. Let's start with what made her famous, which was her midnight ride. And this was the autumn. The autumn wind howled down the Kanawha Valley, carrying the smell of smoke and fear. Inside the wooden walls of Fort Lee, a handful of settlers huddled around together, counting their remaining bullets. And for days, they had been surrounded by the Shawnee warriors, and they were in the trees, cutting off every path. The fort powder kegs were nearly empty. One more attack, and the defenders wouldn't last an hour. When the men argued over who should ride for help, none dared to go. The trail to Fort Savannah, 100 miles away, ran through the hostile country. To leave the fort was suicide. Then a woman stepped forward, slim, tough, wrapped in buckskin, a rifle slung over her shoulder. Her name was Anne Bailey, the widow of a soldier killed years earlier at Point Pleasant. And she looked at the frightened faces around her and simply said, "I'll go." The men tried to stop her. It wasn't right, they said, not for a woman. But Anne had buried her husband to this war. Fear had no claim on her anymore. She saddled her horse. Liverpool was his name. She tightened the cinch, and before dawn, slipped through the gate and into the endless darkness. The wilderness swallowed her whole. She rode by moonlight, trusting the river's curve to guide her east. Rain turned the trail into mud. She slept in hollows, ate what she could, snare and keep her rifle close. Twice she heard war cries echoing from the ridges, but she never stopped. Once a small band of Shawnees spotted her crossing a clearing. Anne spurred Liverpool hard and vanished into the timber. Bullets hissing through the leaves. Every mile was a wager with death, and she meant to win. After 3 days, exhausted and soaked to the bone, Anne staggered into Fort Savannah. The soldiers there could hardly believe the story. A lone woman riding 100 miles through enemy country? When they saw the fire in her eyes, they filled her saddlebags with gunpowder, flints, and lead, and blessed her for her courage. She slept only a few hours before turning back west, racing the rain and the drums of pursuit. On the 4th night, as the men at Fort Lee prepared for what they thought was their final stand, a lone rider appeared at the gate. It was Anne, mud-streaked and smiling, her horse staggering under the weight of powder kegs. She made it. One woman against the wilderness. The fort's guns roared again, and the next morning driving off attackers. Fort Lee stood, and every man there knew he owed his life to the courage of Mad Anne Bailey. In the years that followed, they told her story around every hearth in Kanawha Valley. How a widow in buckskins rode through hell and came back with salvation. Some called her mad and others called her blessed. But her history remembers her for what she truly was, the heartbeat of frontier, the spirit that refused to yield when fear said stop. And that is the story of Anne Bailey. So,
Fort Lee's supposed to be in Virginia.
Virginia, okay. Cool.
But if she was at Fort Lee in Virginia, to get to Fort Savannah, which would be in Georgia, That would be a lot further than 100 miles.
Yeah,
So
not
I'm
sure
kind of
exactly.
looking around to see if there's another Fort Lee,
Mm,
or if maybe they got the mileage wrong in the story. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. Well, and they
Because,
could possibly could have.
well, but I'm trying to follow things along, and
Yeah.
Savannah and Fort Lee. Well, my point is there another Fort Lee that's closer to Savannah back in that era? Is where I'm headed.
Oh
Like,
yeah, and it possibly could. I mean, the what they called forts back then was basically, it could have been a couple of cabins surrounded with wood pillars, and
right,
and
I agree.
a lot of those burnt down. They were moved, especially when settlers came in. They were, you know, built built houses with them and stuff like that, and the fort just became, another town. Um, I don't know exactly where Fort Lee was, but even so, if she rode 100 miles, I tell you what, riding 100 miles on a horse is a long ride.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
you know, I remember back in the day when we did rides and we would ride like from my town to the next town over, and that was 15 miles, and that took us all day of riding. Uh,
Okay. So this this camp this Fort Lee cannot be the same Fort Lee.
okay.
So there's another Fort Lee, and um, I thought I heard something about South Carolina. So this Fort Lee was created in 1917 and named after Robert E. Lee. So it's on historic uh, grounds, um, where settlers first met the Powhatan Confederation in 1607, and where Captain John Smith set up some of the first plantations. But it didn't get its name until after the Civil War and until 1917. So that can't be the same Fort Lee.
Yeah, I'm trying to
I'm
look at the.
so, I'm sorry. I was just trying to follow along. I didn't want to get it sidetracked, but
No, no,
anyway.
no. So here, we're gonna move this over here, and you can see the picture. You see the picture for that they got here. Can you see that?
What, the
Can you
big
see?
picture?
Yeah, the big picture with the cabin on it and the
Yeah.
wood around it. Yeah, see now that might have been that's a representation of what the fort might have been. And as you
Okay.
can see, there's, three or four cabins there, a bigger communal house, a little garden, just enough uh, fencing to keep people or Indians out and people safe inside. I mean, like I said,
So
it's
so when was that, when they had that skirmish and they almost ran out? What year?
1778.
Okay.
And like I said, here she is and she's doing the ride, and you're talking about this fort with a couple of cabins and probably, I would say, I don't know
7,
exactly how many people, probably around
10,
25 or 30
7,
people live
8.
in there, maybe 40 at the most, because how many people can you fit in those cabins and things, what I'm saying? And when you get all that together, you are just anyway. I'm trying to find a map. I thought they would have like a map here for us, but no such thing. See, it says at the age of 49 she did this. Anne Bailey, heroine of the Shenandoah and Kanawha valleys, rode on horseback. Now here they say 200 miles in 2 days and 3 nights in order to secure ammunition to save Fort Lee from an Indian massacre. See, so maybe we're looking at this wrong. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
um, different stories, add up to different things, um, as we go along here, because it depends on what story or what history, nobody really knows this darn history. And here over here was saying Ohio's heroines. So was she in Ohio and she rode to, the Shenandoah Valley of where, Pennsylvania or something? So, what is the story? Miners gather in West Virginia for March Domingo. No, that ain't it. Divine conviction. Bird explain. No, that ain't it. What does it say on her tombstone thing here? Here lies Ann Bailey, heroine of the Virginia frontier. Anne came to Virginia at age 19. She married Richard Trotter, who was later killed at the Battle of Point Pleasant on October 10th, 1774. Mad Anne dressed in buckskins and galloped off to avenge her husband's death. She traveled to the remote settlements carrying messages. Anne later married John Bailey, a member of the garrison at Fort Lee, Charleston, in 1785. Anne rode 200 miles round trip from Fort Lee to Fort Savannah, Lewisburg, or for Gunpowder in 1790. This historic ride saved the fort. In honor of her heroism, Anne was presented with the black horse she rode. She named the horse Liverpool, after her birthplace in England. She settled here after the Revolutionary War near her only son, William. Mad Anne is credited with bringing the first pair of geese across the mountains. Legend also has it that she brought the first copper still to the valley. Anne Hess Trotter Bailey died in Galena County, Ohio on November 22nd, 1825. She was interred here by the Colonel Charles Lewis, chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution on October 10th, 1901. There you go. She died in 1825. So she really seen the world change, didn't she?
Yeah. And it seems that the prominent Revolutionary War era, Fort Lee was located in New Jersey, and the critical events there, including its capture by the British, occurred in November of 1776. So that's where it says the Fort Lee is or was back then.
Yeah. Well, like I said, a lot of these stories get conflicted, but history. That's why it's so hard with history. Yeah, history's out there, and it, the 100 or 200 miles. If you're riding a horse, there's a big difference between 100 and 200 miles,
especially back then.
Yes, absolutely,
especially back then.
Yeah.
So
no, I totally agree with that. Let's see if I can get back to this one. So and of course you got the myth. She here, the colonial woman who fought Indians. Did she really fight the Indians, or did she just ride through the Indians? You know what I'm saying? And at the age of 49, she was probably considered very old for that date. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And if that's a true picture, she got pudgy little face, don't she?
Yeah.
Shame on me.
Well, again, they're trying to show a older woman. She's 49 years old at this point in time in life. Most people didn't make it to 49, especially women. Childbirth. Apparently she only had one child, but at childbirth, most women back then, childbirth was like a death sentence. You could have the kid, or you could die from having the kid. That's why so many men women died off. They they would, they would die with giving birth to a child.
Yep.
And so it was a 50-50 chance. Not like today. You're having a kid, you got a pretty good chance of making it through. So let's continue on. What about her early life? Her name was Anne Hemnes, later Trotter, then Bailey. And she was married twice. Is thought to have been born around 1742 in Liverpool, England. She immigrated to Virginia in the Shenandoah Valley region as a young woman, and some accounts say around age 19. In 1765, she married Richard Trotter, a soldier and frontiersman. And then they had at least one son. His name was William Trotter. And then her husband, Richard Trotter, he was killed October 10th, 1774 at the Battle of Point Pleasant while fighting against the Shawnee under Chief Cornstalk. Now, we've talked about Chief Cornstalk here before. So, you just go back and listen about Cornstalk. Okay, that event was pivotal. After his death, Anne stepped into a radically different role than most women of her time. After Richard's death, the historical records become mixed with legend, with some key facts. And these are them. Her son, William, he left for another household to pursue frontier life as a courier and a scout. And in 1785, November 3rd, she married John Bailey, Greenbrier County. When John, she resided at frontier with him, she resided at frontier forts, one being Fort Lee near present-day Charleston, West Virginia. There is little documented evidence of further children with John, and much of the stories of her life become part history and part legend. And I imagine she didn't have any children with him because, well, she must have been in her 40s by this time when she married him, because if she was at the Fort Lee, she was 49 years old. Well, there you go.
Well, where did you say? Did you say she was in South Carolina?
Yes. No, West Virginia. Charleston, West Virginia.
Oh, I'm sorry. Charleston, West Virginia. Okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Then, so she didn't have any more children with this John Bailey. Like I said, she was probably past the point of having kids because she was in her 40s. And nowadays, that's probably not a big thing. But back in those days, you were having children, at 16, 17, 18, and by, 30, you're an old maid. But not her. Later in life, she moved to Galena County, Ohio, living near her son's family, and died November 22nd, 1825, or thereabouts, at about the age of 83. So she lived a really long time. Okay, so Anne Bailey became known on the frontier as a scout, a courier, and sometimes combatant. So obviously those buckskins, she carried a gun and she was fighting. After her husband's death, Anne adopted frontier roles ordinarily held by men. Like I said, sometimes there's women who rise to the top and do things like men do, but not very many. She was wearing buckskins and carrying a rifle and riding alongside men long distances alone, which was back in those days with Indian country, that was probably not the smartest thing, especially as a woman. So I would imagine she dressed up like a man, because if they would have seen a woman, Indians would have taken her prisoner and made her their wives. Wouldn't you think? Okay.
Or tried to.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you've seen a woman, you'd go, hey, another one for my harem. Whereas if you've seen a man, you'd be another scalp for my pole. Another scalp, So anyway, she's best known for and partly legendary for exploits while stationed at Fort Lee, and the fort was threatened by the Shawnee warriors. And because they ran short of gunpowder and volunteered, as we talked about earlier, and she rode through the hostile country, some say 100 miles. Maybe it was more, maybe 200 miles. But you know how things get exaggerated. So we don't really know. We could probably map it out ourselves, but who knows? Either way, 100, 200 miles, it's a long way. I don't know exactly how long it took her, but hey, 100 miles is a long ride, put it that way. And she went there to get gunpowder and bullets. She returned and saved the fort. Her conflicts with the native peoples were part of the broader frontier struggle because, the Indians were getting, pushed back by the white man, and their land was going bye-bye. And between the trapping and the hunting and stuff like that, all the Indians were starving to death. They had nothing, and nothing. And they wanted, the white man wanted them gone and put on reservations. The Shawnee and other tribes resisted settler expansion and fought back. And Anne operated on with the settler militia and with the conflicts. And this is her story, entwined with both bravery and frontier violence. So, as you can expect, this was one of those things. She was battling the Indians. Who were the Indians? The Indians were the Shawnee warriors. Let's see if I can do something with this. Let's go back to stop share. Okay. Who were the Shawnee? There were Algonquin speaking people, traditionally inhabited the Ohio Valley and parts of West Virginia and surrounding regions. I remember Daniel Boone had a lot of conflicts with the Shawnee. Not to be confused with the Shoshone, who were way out west. These people were strong equestrians. They were hunters, raiding people, fiercely protective of their territory in the face of colonial and settler encroachment. Of course, the white man was coming, and they were fighting back. They didn't have anywhere to go either. You're invading my homeland, you're shooting my animals, you're moving into my land that I loved, and I'm going to fight back because, and the white man fought against them. Historically, they resisted the British, then the Americans. Expansion, they fought in alliances. They allied with other tribes desperately, and especially in wars like Dunmore's War. And I think we talked about Dunmore's War before. Their conflict with settlers like those at Fort Lee was part of their effort to defend the homeland and their way of life. The Indians were fighting for their way of life, put it simply. The white man got in the way, and the red man was willing to lose his life, fight back for everything he loved and knew. Other tribes. The Shawnee was actually the main group that was in that area. And other tribes were the Cherokee, the Delaware, which is also called the Lenape, the Mingo, and other alliance groups also featured in frontier theaters of the Virginia and West Virginia and Ohio. So it wasn't just one group. The Delawares. Who are the Delawares, or the Lenape people? Originally, they were from the East Coast. Many moved into Ohio, west of Virginia, and often caught between British and American forces. Like I said, the Americans moved in, and as they headed west, the Indians headed west too. And they fought back because there was nowhere else to go. There was also the Mingos, loosely used terms from mixed groups of Iroquoian and other tribes in the Ohio region, less centralized, but part of a frontier dynamic. So you got these different groups of Indians. The Mingos were just groups of Indians that didn't have a place to go, leftover people from other tribes. And the Delawares, we know that the Delawares, as we've talked about before, ended up going out west even farther and helping the troops find and scout for other Indians. They were a big help in the conquering of the West. So Anne Bailey's life flips from unusual frontier narrative of a woman on the move and pushing through, endangered, and she was armed, alone, which isn't the stereotype of a pioneer woman. She bridges major historical themes like the American Revolution. All this was going on while she was alive. Western expansion, native conflicts, female agency in the frontier was just not seen. In your well, so we can put this all together. She was defending her home, and so were the Indians. And she was in the middle, and she was helping out. There's not a whole lot about Anne Bailey except that she made this big stretch to get to where she's at. And once she did, she became a heroine, a historical figure because of her heroism that one day. I mean, which just tells you that, I guess, I want to put it this way. If you want to get your 15 seconds of fame and being, that could last throughout history. And Bailey did, huh?
You know what it reminds me of?
What?
The Midnight Ride of Paul Revere.
It is, exactly.
And it was about the same period, too.
It was.
The British are coming, and here she was running to get ammunition and supplies, during that time. So it's like, hero, heroine, and they both made their history on rides on horses. Ain't that interesting?
Well, yeah.
They didn't have a Model T.
Well, that's kind of the thing there. I mean, but like I said, one good act of heroism can land you a place in history. So don't think, everybody, that you're just a nobody. It'll just take one opportunity to do the right thing, and you too could be part of history. So let's finish this off about Anne Bailey. And, back in the day, they called her Dad. But maybe the world wasn't ready for a woman who refused to be afraid. She made her mark in history. Anne Bailey didn't ask for the world to notice her. She didn't march into history to prove a point. She just did what had to be done. I think that's with most people. When her husband fell at Point Pleasant, she couldn't go home. She hung up the rifle, and she could have faded into grief. But instead, she became the storm that grief left behind. She rode through the wilderness and war, through nights when wolves howled and rifles cracked in the darkness, because somebody had to. That was her. She saved lives, carried hope, and left a trail that men twice her size never dared to follow. Remember, at the fort, no man wanted to go. She says, sure. Well, maybe she was just a dumb blonde, but, maybe she wasn't. And maybe she had courage beyond what we can never really put a finger on. And when the world called her Mad Ann, she just smiled, because she just knew courage looks into madness to those who never had to be brave. And in the end, Anne Bailey didn't conquer the West. She conquered fear. She proved that freedom isn't given, it's ridden for. And maybe that's the lesson tonight. The frontier's not out there anymore. It's in here, right here. And in every heart that still dares to do what others say that can't be done. So
now see, we don't know what her motivation was. There could have been some people in the fort that she's like, man, I'd do anything to protect these people.
Mm-hmm.
And so that had to be her motivation, not just, hey guys, I ain't doing nothing tonight. I think I'll ride a couple 100 miles and go get some stuff for y'all. Anybody back there want a Snickers bar?
Yeah.
But so her why she did it must have been an extreme motivation for who was there at the fort.
Yeah.
Somebody was there she wanted to protect at all cost. And so she went to all of these extremes to for it could have been the whole fort that she loved, but at some point, like you was saying, it was in here. There was something that was in here and something in that fort that she wanted to protect at all costs. And so she made that daring ride. So,
well, the thing is either that or she was just as extraordinary. Maybe she had moved up into the man's role so much because she lost her husband. Now you remember she was 49 years old at the point, and here she is, and she's probably saying, "I've been around the block, and all you young twerps are just too scared to go out there. I'll show you. I can do it." And she didn't come there dressed in a dress. She came there in buckskins, which, was like taboo back then for a woman to be dressed in pants. That was like enough to get you called a witch and hung at the, at the stake kind of thing, or burned at the stake, should I say, right?
yeah, but there were a lot of women who drove um, um, wagons back in the day, you know.
Yeah, but
Out west, there were,
were they wearing dresses? I mean, we're talking about riding a horse, and she wasn't riding side saddle. I assure you that.
no, but that's what I know. What I mean is, there were a lot of women who were drivers on stagecoaches and just delivery wagons, and a lot of them wore pants because it was easier to get up and down in the wagon, and so they were a little bit frowned upon, but it was like, no, she's just, she's a wagoneer or whatever. So, but there were women who did, but they were few.
Yes.
But to the point that here she comes in, more or less dressed like a man. I still say it wasn't that she was trying to prove to the men, probably, y'all a bunch of weaslings, but there was somebody in that fort that she wanted to protect. I'd lay money on that one.
Yeah.
She was old enough at 49 to have had a child, and that child could have had grandchildren.
Okay, so I looked this up, and it says, this is what Google is telling me. It says no, women did not typically wear pants in the 1700s. Their fashion consisted of dresses, gowns, petticoats, and trousers. Were considered
typically.
Yeah, it says here that typically the formal wear, undergarments, exceptions for practical purposes, labor. Some women who worked in demanding jobs like those of coal pits have worn trousers under shorter skirts as practical measure. In military service, some women, like Hannah Snell in the 18th century, disguised themselves as men to enlist and fought in battles while wearing men's clothing. She could be another one of those women who, did, horse riding. Some women wore bootifical gear garments and coats, I don't know what that is, that looked like long something or under the skirts to allow them to ride horses. Now it also says here did where they wear trousers, and in the mid 1800s, now we're talking long before after she was dead, they wore a form of pants that were designed for women that resembled Turkish pants or bloomers. So, but they never really caught on. Like I said, there wasn't a whole lot of people, especially wearing buckskin pants back in the day. So.
No, it was only those rare few. There was a couple of famous women who drove stagecoaches back in the day, and there was a famous one that she drove wagons, hauling freight, and she was well known. But she didn't wear no dress, and but they were rare and few and far between. But there were women who saw that buckskin pants, for practicality.
Yeah.
If they were riding long and hard, they didn't wear a dress. They put on a pair of buckskins and rode like a man.
Yeah, exactly.
And even in England, the women, would change clothes. And I don't know how far back it went, but they would put on their riding breeches.
Yeah. Well, exactly. But like we're talking 1700s, and then times changed in the 1800s because people were moving out west. There's different lifestyle going on. They changed the hats they were wearing, more Western garments. A lot of things were changing in the 1800s, but in the 1700s, like I said, they were coming from England. They were still wearing all that English garb. I guess that's what we could say.
Oh, big bloomers up underneath hoop skirts and stuff, It was horrible.
So hot hoop skirts.
When they got out onto the prairie, they went practical. Practicality kicked in,
Well,
so
Scotty Boy
but
says
women women in the towns and everything, and in Philadelphia and all, they wore those kinds of things. But when you started moving out into the wilderness, all that stuff went in the trash.
Yeah. Scotty Boy is talking about Calamity Jane. That was back in the late 1800s. And during the late 1800s, women were starting to, wear those bloomer things, and they were starting to, be more independent. Within 50 years, these women, once the Civil War was done, women were starting to look at, hey, we got rights too. We can do things too. We can blah, blah, blah. And, women in the wilderness of the West said, I don't give a crap. And they would wear what they wanted to because it was more practical.
Exactly. So that wasn't recorded too much because it wasn't the norm,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So, but women, that's why the pioneer women were practical. If a dress was bothering her, she had a pair of bloomers on, and she'd hike that skirt up so she could run. Or do something, Yep. And so they weren't stupid.
Yep, that's for sure.
If the dress hindered them, they had 2 or 3 underlayings on. Nah, they put on one layer. To heck with that. Ain't nobody looking. I ain't. I'm just gonna wear this one skirt, or I'm just gonna wear my bloomers.
Well, yeah, and a lot of them would wear pants or trousers, but they would wear a skirt or a dress over the top so that it would, they would still have the womanly look. Even so, because that was the thing, women were trying to be women and men were trying to be men. And even though the women tried, they knew that, hey, wearing the pants is a good thing. You got a lot of religion stuff going on, a lot of manly stuff going on. A woman could be looked at in different ways, like, you know what I mean? Because it was a woman's job, like I've been talking about a long time now, is women who portrayed womanly values or looked like a woman were more likely to get married and have children and since women couldn't own land or vote or do any of those things, it was to their advantage to marry a good, hardworking man so they could have those children and have a nice house and have things. Whereas if they looked like a man, what kind of man would want a woman who wore trousers and acted like a man. She wouldn't be having any kids, and no man would want to marry her either. Am I wrong?
Well, at the age of 49, she'd be past that age of having kids anyway.
She
But
what?
if he needed somebody to, that was a good wagoneer, and they was in business of hauling produce or something, then that would be a good marriage. So,
Yes.
not to say, but that picture, she was kind of fugly.
Yeah. Yeah. But then again, we don't know what women look like back in those days. I've seen pictures of the old West women, and they ain't really big turn-ons. A lot of
Right,
them
that's right.
look pretty manly in the face, and I'm like, holy cow, this was a woman on the prairie, and she looks like a man in the face, and she has a dress on, and I'm thinking, wow.
And they'd have whiskers, one or
Yeah.
two whiskers on their chin. But back to the skirt thing, and the dress. One of the things that came, I believe, it came out of Mexico, kind of thing, and it was the gauchos,
Yeah.
and South America. And I remember back in the '60s when it was a big deal, that they were sort of like pantsuits, and women could wear these, and I can't culotte something anyway. They look like a skirt until you got up close, and then you realized they were pants or shorts. So those were introduced way back when also,
Yep.
especially for women, in Mexico, who are renowned for wearing those gaucho kind of things that look like a dress, when they got off of the horse, but they were basically, they were basically, I want to say they were culottes back in the days when we had to fix.
Yeah. Little Scotty Boy says, look like Wisconsin women. Yeah. I know. I'm originally from Wisconsin. I know what those women look like. And you're right, Scotty Boy. They eat too much cheese. And they look kind of like men. That's because of all the cheese and the milk they drink from being, whatever. Anyway, we ain't going to talk. So, anyway, what's next? That was Ann Bailey. I thought I had to bring a woman. We're always talking about the mountain men. But, there are some mountain women that come into context every now and then. And they were hardy women with bravery and skills just like a man. Far and few
Well,
between.
And God bless all the Native American women who were hardy as hell, living in
Yeah.
teepees and stuff, and which was their native way of life. And so hey, Witch Moon, but they were living on the tundra, you know, um, scraping meat off the back of a hide to make into clothing, and because that's how you made buckskin, and still do today, is you got to take that deer hide and you got to scrape that meat off of the one side, and then when you get done you got to take all the hair off the other side, and then you got to work that hide to where it's nice and soft and pliable. And then in order to get it even more pliable, the one method that I remember is that they would take the hide and folded it, rolled it into a cone over a low fire with smoke, and they would smoke the hide, for a little while. You don't get it too hot, you just smoke it, and then they would take the hide and flip it over, and they would do the other side, and then they would work it into the hide, taking the hide and rubbing it like this, and they would work that to get that buckskin. They did a lot of work to get it nice and soft. Otherwise, they'd walk around, stiff as a board with the leather. But anyway.
Yep. Okay. Well, that's all good. Maybe one of these days we'll have to do a show about leather working. So we got a story tonight, right?
Oh, of course.
We're on to your chapter here. I think I got it pulled up, right? There we go. There we go. Hot diggity dog. So all is good. We'll have to do a show about leather making. Maybe I'll have to get a deer hide out or something, and we'll look at that and talk about it, and so forth and so on, right?
Yeah, and I've got a couple of books and stuff on different techniques from the old way, and brain tanning,
Yeah.
And brain tanning is still used today. So,
a question? Have you ever tanned a hide?
I've tried and failed.
Failed. Okay.
Yep. I did not flesh all the meat off, and I failed. So that's my fault.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to apprentice with somebody, so I could see how it goes. I've got the steps, but there are little tricks in between, and I have failed. So, well, you do it like this, and then you get there, and it don't take long, and the hide's gone too far.
Yeah.
And you go, well, damn it, man. Well, you should have done it like this. Well, now you tell me.
Yeah.
Well, no,
I totally agree with you.
What happens.
That is exactly it. I've never tanned a hide. I had a buddy who tanned a buffalo hide by himself. And, it was I hate to say it was kind of a disaster, but, he got pretty good. He did, I should put it, he did all right. He does have the hide today, but I helped him, and it was huge. Oh my gosh, a whole buffalo hide weighed so much, and we didn't have any idea what to do. And he's trying to read stuff, and there was no internet, and we were trying to figure out how to do this thing, and it was so much work. We put all these chemicals in a 55-gallon drum and put this thing in the drum, and we killed all the trees around that area, and all the grass never grew back because the chemicals spilled out onto the ground, and it was terrible. It was the worst thing ever. But he has a hide today. He used it for all kinds of things. That buffalo hide is amazing.
Right behind me, I was trying to see how you could see it in the camera, but it's right back here. Is a deer hide that's been laying over this radiator for the last 30 years, and it's still pliable, like a rug or whatever, still got the fur on it, but the fur comes off, if you mess with it too much. But I don't know who did it, but they did a great job, but I could probably take it and hang it up and take all of the fur off of it and turn it into buckskin, because it's still so workable to this day.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Well, yeah. So, I kind of agree with, like Lucky says. He says, I helped tan a deer hide. It was a buck. I'm not sure how much it helped. I helped. It stank like ammonia and death. Well, you know what? I have to agree. That's exactly how the buffalo hide smelled. Smelled like ammonia and death. Anyway,
and the ammonia.
There you go. You go ahead.
The ammonia was from the urine.
Yes.
And from the bladder usually, and smelling like death. When you rip open an animal and all of the guts fall out, I know this is graphic, but there is a smell there that's, I mean, even with small animals, there's a smell when you open them up. There's something about it, and it's the ends up being the smell of death.
Yeah, do not cut into the piss bag. That's what Scotty Boy says. Anyway, Nina's here. I want to
Right.
tell everybody about buying some shirts and stuff on Nina's site. The link is in the description below, but you can get one of, well, maybe not this shirt, but you can get Milky Way Soul Tribe shirts there. Remember, you can get the mugs like this mug right here on there. And, let's do this. Anyway, you can get all kinds of good stuff on Nina's website on the thing. And the link is in the description, and it's a pinned comment up above. So go check that out. She's got all kinds of holiday merchandise in there too, in case you want to get your loved one or somebody else a present. Remember, there's also Native American myths and legends shirts. There's mugs, books, dream journals, all kinds of stuff in there. Stickers for the Milky Way Soul Tribe, Native American myths and legends. David Null, the best storyteller on YouTube, as he's showing you the picture of the shirt right there. There you go. Look at that. The best storyteller on YouTube. And right now we're going to, yes, and Nina says new holiday merch in the store. And also new 15-ounce black glossy mugs. Look at that shirt. Man, oh man.
I'm wearing a hoodie right now.
Oh, you got the hoodie on. Good deal.
Yeah, by the way. And so, and that's what the thing looks like. And so, yep. That light doesn't really do it any good. But, and I'm looking at it upside down. So, but anyway, so I'm wearing the hoodie. Thank you very much.
Is it nice and soft and warm?
It's nice and soft, yes.
Yeah.
This is not a complaint now. I do wish it was a little warmer.
Oh, well, there you go.
No, it's nice. I like it. I do. It's not that, like I said, it's not a complaint, but I wish it was just a little thicker.
Anyway,
it's nice. I like it.
Good.
I do.
I am glad you like it. Remember, everybody, you can go out and get yourself a shirt. Send it to David for, I'll send you his address, and you can send it right to him for Christmas, and he'll have a Native American Myths and Legends shirt, coffee mug, or T-shirt, anything you want to send him for Native American Myths and Legends. We all appreciate you so much, Hawkeye. Thank you. As now it is your turn to tell the wonderful story, because, hey, you are the best YouTube storyteller on YouTube.
Apparently, there's somebody else is better because he's got 11 million subscribers.
Wow. Hey, forget about that guy. We're going to get you 11 million subscribers too. Don't doubt it.
It doesn't matter. It's the fact that folks who come here and stop by and listen to the stories. I'm always grateful. It's the fact that, Creator gave me the ability to tell the stories and to relate the stories. And so for all those folks out there who need to hear these stories, here's one tonight. How Raven brought fire to the Indians. Are we ready to go? I guess
it's all yours.
Me. Okay, all right. There's the segue. Go on. How Raven brought fire to the Indians. Many ages ago, when the world was still young, Raven and White Seagull lived near together in Canada, far in the North Country, on the shores of the Great Water in the West. They were very good friends, and they always worked in harmony, and they had much food and many servants in common. White Seagull knew no guile. He was always very open and frank and honest in his dealings with others. But Raven was a sly fellow, and at times he was not lacking in treachery and deceit, but Seagull did not suspect him, and the two lived always on very friendly terms. In these far back times in the North Country, all the world was dark, and there was no light but that of the stars. Seagull owned all the daylight, but he was very stingy and he kept it always locked up in a box. He would give none of it to anyone else, and he never let it out of the box except when he needed a little of it to help himself when he went far away on his journeys. After a time, Raven grew envious of Seagull's possession, and he said, "It's not fair that Seagull should keep the daylight all to himself, locked up in a box. It was meant for all the world and not for him alone, and it would be of great value to all of us if he would sometimes let a little of it out." So he went to Seagull and said, "Give me some of your daylight. You do not need it all, and I can use some of it with advantage." But Seagull said, "No, I want it all for myself." "What could you do with daylight, you with your coat as black as night?" And he would not give him any of it. So Raven made up his mind that he would have to get some daylight from Seagull by stealth. Soon afterwards, Raven gathered some prickly thorns and burdocks and scattered them on the ground between Seagull's house and the beach where the canoes were lying. Then he went to Seagull's window and cried loudly, "Our canoes are going adrift in the surf. Come quickly and help me to save them." Seagull sprang out of bed and ran half asleep on his bare feet. But as he ran to the beach, the thorns stuck to his bare flesh and he howled with pain. He crawled back to his house saying, "My canoe may go adrift if it pleases. I cannot walk because of the splinters in my feet." Raven chuckled to himself, and he moved away, pretending to go to the beach to draw up the canoes. Then he went into Seagull's house. Seagull was still howling with pain. He was sitting crying on the side of his bed, and he was trying to pull the thorns from his feet as best he could. "I will help you," said Raven, "for I have often done this before. I am a very good doctor." So he took an awl made from whalebone, and he caught hold of Seagull's foot with the pretense of removing the thorns. But instead of taking them out, he only pushed them in farther, until poor Seagull howled louder than ever. And Raven said, "It is so dark I cannot see to pull these thorns from your feet. Give me some of your daylight, and I will soon cure you. A doctor must always have a little light." So Seagull unlocked the box and lifted the cover just a little bit so that a faint gleam of light came out. "That is better," said Raven. But instead of picking out the thorns, he pushed them in as he had done before until Seagull howled and kicked in pain. "Why are you so stingy with your light?" snapped Raven. "Do you think I am an owl and that I can see well enough in the darkness to heal your feet? Open the box wide, and I will soon make you well." So saying, he purposely fell heavily against Seagull and knocked the box on the floor. The cover flew open, and daylight escaped and spread quickly over all the world. Poor Seagull tried his best to lure it back into the box, but his efforts proved fruitless, for it had gone forever. Raven said he was very sorry for the accident, but after he had taken all the thorns from Seagull's feet, he went home laughing to himself and well pleased because of the success of his trick. Soon there was light in all the world, but Raven could not see very well, for the light was too bright, and his eyes were not accustomed to it. He sat for a long time looking towards the east, but he saw there nothing of interest. The next day he saw a bit further, for he was now getting used to the new conditions. The third day he could see distinctly a line of hills far in the east, rising against the sky and covered with a blue mist. He looked long at the strange sight. Then he saw far away towards the hill a thin column of smoke lifting heavenwards. He had never seen smoke before, but he had often heard of it from travelers in strange places. "That must be the country of which I have been told," he said. "In that land dwell the people who alone possess fire. We have searched for it for many ages, and now I think we have found it." Then he thought, "We now have the daylight, and what a fine thing it would be if we could also have fire." And he determined to set out to find it. On the following day, he called his servants together and told them of his plans. He said, "We shall set out at once, for the distance is far." And he asked 3 of his best servants, Robin, Mole, and Flea, to go with him. Flea brought out his little wagon, and they all tried to get into it, but it was much too small to hold them. Then they tried Mole's carriage, but it was much too frail, and it had scarcely started to move when it broke down and they all fell out in a heap. Then they tried Robin's carriage, but it was much too high, and it toppled over under its heavy load and threw them all to the ground. Then Raven stole Seagull's large, strong carriage, for Seagull was asleep. and it did very well. And they started out on their journey, taking turns pushing the cart along with a pole over the flat plain. After a strange journey in queer places, they reached the land of the people who owned fire, guided along by the thin column of smoke. The people were not people of earth. Some say they were the fish people, but that no man knows. They sat around in a large circle with fire in their midst, for it was autumn, and the days and nights were chill, and fire was in many places. Raven looked on for a while from afar, thinking of the best plan to obtain fire. Then he said to Robin, "You can move faster than any of us. You must steal fire. You can fly in quickly, pick it up in your bill, and take it back to us, and the people will not see nor hear you." So Robin picked out a spot where there were few people, and he darted in quickly and picked up fire in a twinkling and flew back unharmed towards his companions. But he had only taken a very little bit of it. When he got halfway back to his friends, fire was so hot in his bill that it gave him a strange pain, and he had to drop it on the ground. It fell to the earth with a crash, and it was so small that it flickered faintly. Robin called to his companions to bring the carriage. Then he stood over fire and fanned it with his wings to keep it alive. It was very hot, but he stood bravely to his task until his breast was badly scorched and he had to move away. His efforts to save fire were of no avail. And before his companions reached him, fire had died, and only a black coal remained. And poor Robin's breast was singed. And to this day, the breasts of his descendants are a reddish brown color because he was scorched while trying to steal fire ages ago. Then Raven asked Flea to make the attempt to steal fire. But Flea said, "I am too little. The heat would roast me to death. And further, I might miscalculate the distance and hop into the flame." Then Raven asked Mole to try, but Mole said, "Oh no, I am better fitted for other work. My fur would all be singed like Robin's breast." Raven took good care that he would not go himself, for he was a great coward. So he said, "There is a better and easier way. We will steal the baby of the chief and hold him for ransom. Perhaps they will give us fire in exchange for him." And they all thought this was a very good idea. Raven asked, "Who will volunteer to steal the baby?" For he always made the others do all the work. Flea said, "I will go. In one jump, I will be into the house, and in another jump, I will be out again, for I can hop a great distance." But the others laughed and said, "You could not carry the baby. You are too small." The mole said, I will go. I can tunnel a passage very quietly under the house and right up to the baby's cradle. I can then steal the baby, and no one will hear me or see me. So it was agreed that Mole should go. In a few minutes, Mole made his tunnel, and he was soon back with the baby. Then they got into their carriage and hurried home with their prize. When the chief of the fire people discovered the loss of his child, he was very angry. And in all the land there was great sorrow, because the chief's heir, the hope of the tribe, had gone. And the child's mother and her women wept so bitterly that their tears fell like rain on all the land. The chief said he would give anything he possessed to find his child. But although his people searched far and near, they could not find the baby. After many days, a wayfarer who had come from far from the great water in the west brought them news that a strange child was living far to the westward in the village by the sea, he said. He is not of their tribe. He looks like the children of your village. And he advised them to go see him for themselves. So the chief sent his men in search for them, guided by the wayfarer. When they reached Raven's village, they were told that a strange baby was indeed there. The child was described to them, but he was kept out of sight. And Raven would not tell how he had happened to come there. And Raven said, How do I know he is your chief's child? People tell strange lies these days. If you want him, you can pay for him, for he has caused us much trouble and expense. So the messengers went back and reported to the chief what they had heard. From the description, the chief knew that the child was his. So he gave the messengers very valuable presents of pearls and rich robes and sent them back again to ransom his boy. But Raven, when he saw the presents, said, No, I do not want these gifts. They do not pay me for my trouble. And he would not part with the baby. The messengers again reported to the chief what had happened. Then the chief gave them still richer gifts, the best that he had in all of his land, and sent them back. But again Raven said, No, your gifts are valueless compared with my trouble and expense. Say this to your chief. When the chief heard this from his messengers, he was sore perplexed, for he had offered the best he had, and he thought that he had reached the end of his resources. So he said, Go back and ask the people to demand what they wish in exchange for my boy, and they will receive it if it can be provided. So the messengers went back to Raven and spoke as they had been commanded. And Raven said, Only one thing can pay for the child, and that is fire. Give me fire, and you can take the baby. The messenger laughed and said, "Why did you not say so at first and save us all this trouble and anxiety? Fire is the most plentiful thing in our kingdom, and we hold it to no value." So they returned happy to the chief, and he sent back much fire and received his child unharmed from Raven in exchange. And then he sent Raven 2 small stones, which the messengers taught Raven how to use. And they said, "If you ever lose fire, or if it ever dies for lack of food, you can always call it back to life with these 2 little stones." Then they showed him how to make fire with the 2 little stones, and withered grass, and birch bark, and dry pine. And Raven thought it was very easy, and he felt very proud because he had brought fire and light to the earth. He kept fire for himself for a long time, and although the people clamored loudly for it, he would not give any of it away. Soon, however, he decided to sell a quantity of it, for he now had the power of making it. So he said to himself, "This is a good way to get many wives." And he announced that he would only sell some of his fire in return for a wife. And many families bought his fire. In exchange, he received many wives. And to this day, he still has many wives, and he still moves about from place to place with a flock of them always around him. But the Indians, when they arrived, took fire away from him. Thus fire came to the Indians in the old days. And when it has died, as it often does, they still sometimes use Raven's flintstones to bring it back to life. The end. How Raven brought fire to the Indians. Seems like the Indians stole it from him when they got there. "Look, there's Raven. Get his stones." So, but that's how the creator showed him how to use Flintstones.
Flintstones,
Cartoon show. The Flintstones.
Absolutely.
They're the modern Stone Age family in the town of Bedrock.
Right.
They're a place right out of history.
Yep.
From the town of Bedrock, they're the modern Stone Age family.
Mm-hmm. Back when they made cartoons to be cartoons. Oh, yeah. No, they don't make good cartoons. Oh, they're all like anime stuff, which I don't care for the anime stuff. Yeah. I long to go back to the days when life was simple. Mm-hmm.
Gone are the days when our life was like. And so, my friends,
it's time for cards, isn't it?
Time for cards. How are we on time?
Yeah. We are doing good. Got a half hour left to draw cards. So people get your guesses in for tonight's card guesses now. I think Scotty Boy has already gotten his in. I'm waiting for Lucky and Elderberry to get their cards. Regine Hutchinson's in the house. Thank you for coming. And she says something about parades and Disney. And we'll get your guests in too. I don't know who else is in here at the time, but Nina's in here. Get your guests in here for tonight. What spirit guide card is calling your name? As Scotty Boy is eating his 2 brontosaurus ribs on the side here. That makes me think I should have some
Barney Rubble.
Barney Rubble, that's right. Lucky, sorry, there is no salmon. No fish out there. There is a mouse, there is a moose, there is a deer, and there is a beaver. So, I think you got to guess a bug.
There is whale.
There's whale. There's dolphin. There's dragonflies and butterflies and ant. We haven't had ant in a long time. There's bat. There's badger. I am gonna say butterfly, eagle. I'm gonna go with moose too. I'm gonna go with bear. Yeah, that's mine.
We had moose last time.
Well, sometimes they come up time after time.
Oh, I know. I was just
no salmon. Jeez, why are you trying to pick a salmon? There is no fishy. There's
okay.
Dolphin.
So
mammals.
So here
there is lizard though and turtle.
No, that's backwards.
So whatever you got, get it in now because it's coming right up. Right up, people. Right up. I am getting my board situated already. And soon as you name out the cards, I will be putting them up because that's what I do. I'm doing my job. Well, the last few weeks, there's been a lot of cards. Elderberry says moose, lynx, hummingbird, and hedgehog. Sorry, no hedgehog. There is a hummingbird. Ooh, that's a good guess. I like that one, Elderberry. There is a lynx. That's a good one. And everybody's choosing moose tonight. Moose is a hot topic tonight. So there you go. Hot topic is moose. Everybody wants a moose. So step right on up and get your moose burger. I'm terrible anyway. Trout. There is no trout. No fish. There is no fish. So don't guess fish. Okay. Elk is better, Scotty Boy. Elk is good. There is elk. So guess an elk. There is deer. There's antelope. There's buffalo. There is ant. There's mouse. There's lizard. There's I don't know, bat. Yes, Elderberry says bat. Yes, there is bat. Well, right now we don't know what any of them are. There's hummingbird, there's goose, there's swan. We haven't had goose in a long time either. We have had swan. We haven't had hummingbird in a while either. So what will the cards say tonight and predict our future for later or influence your life? Is this what your life is about? There's too many restrictions, Scotty Boy says. Oh, come on.
And besides, they're only suggestions as to what can lie ahead, and a gentle reminder as to where the universe might want you to go. Yeah. Not necessarily predestined, but in a way predestined. Okay, so some of them came out as pairs. So I think that's all.
What is an elk wife? I don't even know what that is.
What?
Is it like a fish? Alewife? I don't know what kind of fish that is. I've had catfish, bluegill. I know what that is. I don't know what a hornspout is or a pickerel. I know what a bass is. I guess I'm not a fisherman. Yeah, just not a fisherman.
So
I had a dog named Peaches.
Right out of the bat, we've got first off is dog and otter.
What? Dog?
Dog and otter. They came out as a pair, and otter's upside down.
Ooh.
And let me get these laid out a little better. Oh, drat. Okay. Hang on.
Scotty Boy says I was gonna call Otter, but he didn't. Like he says.
So we've got dog and otter.
Yeah.
Then we have buffalo, right side up.
Buffalo, oh, didn't I?
And then we have deer upside down.
Deer.
Then we have beaver, right side up. And we have whale upside down. And then the last two cards are rabbit upside down and raven upside down. So Raven was in our story tonight, so that's interesting.
Yes, yes it is. Isn't it amazing? A lot of times when we talk about an animal, that's what comes up. It's kind of crazy. I really do believe something's up with the universe with that.
Well, and
I got buffalo and beaver. There you go.
Well, in that too, that I'm the one that's got a feel for the universe as to what the cards are. Now I don't know because I got them all face down.
So he's good, but Lucky got beaver. I know Elderberry had a guest in here somewhere. Elderberry said moose, lynx, hummingbird, and hedgehog. Nope, you're wrong.
We don't have hedgehog.
No bat either. He said, yeah, I did.
We have badger, not hedgehog.
Yeah. I saw it from the eyes. And he says he saw it from the eyes. Okay. Well, good deal. Okay, but you guys got buffalo and beaver right. That was a good one. I called moose too. Everybody was called for moose, and moose did not come up.
So here we go with some interpretation. So dog is number 14. And otter's first in the book, so I'm going to go with otter. And otter has something to do with playfulness, I believe. Otter is woman medicine. Okay, and I'm got to look at number 14 at the same time. So we've got woman medicine upside down, and dog is about loyalty. So the two of these go together. All right. So there is, dog has been considered the servant of humanity throughout history. And the medicine held by otter is a set of lessons in female energy. This applies to both men and women, as all of us have female sides. Otter is always on the move and is very curious. Unlike other animals, otter will not start a fight unless it is attacked first. This joyful little creature is adventuresome and assumes that all other creatures are friendly until proven otherwise. Dog was the servant soldier that guarded the tribe's lodges from surprise attacks. Dog is a medicine that embodies the loving gentleness of best friend and the half-wild protector energy of territorial imperative. Throughout history, dog has been the guardian. While mothers were cooking in the fields, dogs guarded the babies. In examining dog medicine, you might find that you have found personal memories of owning and loving a dog as a pet. Women energy without games or control is a beautiful thing. So now otter's upside down. If the otter has appeared reversed, you may be running from one idea to another without focus. Okay? This could also imply that you have forgotten how to receive and are blocking a gift from the universe with your male side. If this is the case, you may be embarrassed to receive compliments, to have someone hug you, or to allow your genuine personality to come out. Fear of being rejected is the contrary message of otter. Drop the seriousness on all levels and play at life so that the fear rolls off your back. Realize that the only flow is the flow of love from the Great Spirit to you, from you to others, and from others back to you. And with that, dog medicine is trying to explain, that, you can do this with loyalty. So dog medicine asks you to look at how readily your sense of loyalty is countermanded by your need for approval. If you pulled the dog card, there are several questions you might consider. But out of a sense of service, dogs can carry an altered genetic memory of what service means. So, contrary, otter is saying you have forgotten how to receive a gift from the universe. And dog is saying that you may have forgotten your genetic memory. And then buffalo comes in, number 19. Those two cards are good. Dog being loyal, number 19. And with buffalo coming up as prayer and abundance, and buffaloes sitting straight up. All animals are sacred, but in many traditions, white buffalo is the most sacred. To use buffalo medicine is to smoke the pipe in a sacred manner, and to give praise for the richness of life to be shared with all races, all creatures, all nations, and all life. It means smoking for others so that their needs are met, praying for the good of all things in harmony, and accepting the great mystery as part of that harmony. So loyalty with the dog, being in harmony with prayer and abundance with buffalo. Those are two good cards back to back. If you've drawn the buffalo card, you may be asked to use your energy in prayer. You may also be called upon to be an instrument of someone else's answer to a prayer. Buffalo medicine is a sign that you achieve nothing without the aid of the Great Spirit, and that you must be humble enough to ask for that assistance and be grateful for what you receive. Be grateful for what you receive, the abundance from the Creator. Now, here's deer, which is number 4, and it's all about gentleness because deer went up Sacred Mountain, and that nasty demon tried to scare the deer back down the mountain. And Fawn, however, said to the demon, "Please let me pass. I'm on my way to see the Great Spirit." And Fawn's eyes were filled with love and compassion for this oversized bully of a demon. And the demon was so astounded by Fawn's lack of fear, no matter how he tried, he could not frighten Fawn because her love had penetrated his hardened heart. Much to the demon's dismay, his rock hard heart began to melt, and his body shrank to the size of a walnut. Fawn's persistent love and gentleness had caused the meltdown of the demon. And so, in doing so, in order to reach Sacred Mountain, there's nothing stopping, or there's no demons of fear blocking their way. Deer teaches us to use the power of gentleness to touch the hearts and minds of wounded beings who are trying to keep us from Sacred Mountain. Now, deer's upside down. Deer, on the contrary, says that you are courting your fear by fighting the internal demons of negative ideas. This is a clue to you that force is not always the best method. In other words, you've got abundance in everything, and you've got the loyalty of dog, that maybe whatever it is, because beaver's coming up. So whatever it is that you might be trying to build, it may be that you might not be, that force may not be what needs to happen. So deer's almost ahead of beaver. So let me get to beaver, which is number 22. Yep, beaver is the builder, and beaver is right side up. So beaver is the doer in the animal kingdom. And beaver medicine is akin to water and earth energies, and incorporates a strong sense of family and home. And so there's loyalty of dog, right? And there is um you know the sense of family and woman medicine with otters. So all of this is, uh, in the beginning, it's all good. You've got the buffalo with the, with prayers and abundance. Deer telling you that, the way is open to Sacred Mountain, but upside down. But it has a tendency to say that because beaver is the doer in the animal kingdom and the beaver. So whatever that you want to build, deer upside down is saying, remember, it may be that you don't have to push so hard to get her done. All right. So be careful with that. To understand beaver medicine, you may take a look at the power of working and attaining a sense of achievement. In building a dream, teamwork is necessary. And so, beaver, so you're in the process of building something here, right? And the next one up is whale, number 41. The whale song. No, whale is the record keeper, and whale is right side up. So coming out of whatever we're building with the beaver and the sense of the sacred buffalo and abundance, with the sacred mountains open. We know to be careful and not try to push it when we're building whatever we need to be building. And whale is the record keeper, which is saying that every person is coded with their own DNA, and whale is very much like a swimming library and carries the history of Mother Earth, and is said to have been placed here by the ancients from the dog star Sirius. Biologists say that whale is a mammal and very possibly lived on land millions of years ago. In tribal legend, whales' move into the ocean happened when the earth shifted and Lemuria, the motherland, went below the waves. So, whale medicine people are coded with their DNA to understand that sound frequencies can bring up records. So, the whale is upside down. So, but it's about frequencies. So, if whale has breached itself in your cards, the contrary medicine implies that you're not following your sonar or your homing device. On some level, you have forgotten that you hold all the answers you need to survive. So, deer is saying, don't try too hard. Beaver's there because he's the doer and ready. Come on, let's build. And upside down whale is there saying that you have forgotten something because you've got all the answers you need to survive. So whales are reminding you, you've forgotten something. We have forgotten something. And the last two cards coming up. So it may be that you are having to deal with a lot of chatter in your head and you cannot get to your own personal records. If so, you may need to use other sounds to enter the silence. You might need to put on some music, a different kind of music, something you may not normally listen to, and to get you into a different silence. Now, rabbit is number 30. It's upside down. And rabbit's about fear. Exactly. And so a long time ago, Rabbit had a friend who was a witch who did a couple of favors for him. And then after, Rabbit ate the turnip and drank the water, Rabbit got afraid of the witch and wouldn't speak to the witch. And later on, the witch came by and said, Rabbit, how come you haven't come by to see me? Rabbit said, because I'm afraid of you. And the witch said, okay, if that's the way it is, I curse you and all of your kin from now on. You will have fear. And so Rabbit now calls fear to him. And so after all this time, Um, Now, Rabbit is the fear caller. He goes out and shouts to the eagle, I am so afraid of you, come and eat me. So, but now, upside down, Rabbit. The paralyzed feeling which Rabbit experiences when being stalked is Rabbit in the contrary position. So, upside down, feeling, oh, deer in the headlights. If you have tried to resolve a situation in your life and you are unable to, you may be feeling frozen in motion. So here's the situation. Okay, you come along. Um, Beaver is the doer, and maybe you've gotten a little further on down and you don't know what to do next. Okay, so that's what it looks like to me. Um, this could indicate a time to wait for the forces of the universe to start moving again. So you got the message from Whale, the doer from the Beaver, but now Rabbit says, just hold still for a minute. Just um, indicate a time to wait for the forces of the universe to start moving again. It could also indicate the need to stop and take a rest. So Beaver may be doing too much, and the frequency of Whale, you know, could be too much information, and Rabbit's trying to tell you that you need to rid yourself of any negative feelings. And simply put, you cannot have your influence felt until you rearrange your way of seeing the present set of circumstances. Now, Raven is the last card and is number 16. I see all these cards as, being good cards. There's abundance. Deer saying it's okie dokie. Beaver's in there as the doer. Whales in there with the giving good frequencies, and Raven coming up here is to clean it up is magic. So Raven magic is a powerful magic that can give you the courage to enter into the darkness of the void, which is the home of all that is not yet in form. So if all of these cards represent an idea or a formulation or something, a group of people are going to get together and we're gonna form a club, you know, and we're all going to get together on Thursdays. So there is no fear. Beaver is the doer. Say, okay, doke, let's all get together. Whale saying, all right, let's use our energy. Rabbit saying, don't be afraid. Let's just sit still and make sure we got everybody covered. And then here's Raven coming in, um, um, saying this is to give you the courage to enter into that which has not yet formed. And wait a minute, people get freaked out about that, but it's not something to get freaked out about. It just means that you don't really know what tomorrow's going to bring. So that's the great mystery. Well, we kind of know what's planned. It's a Friday, it's the end of the month, so but we don't know exactly what's going to happen, but we do know certain things. So but we don't know until we get there tomorrow what tomorrow is going to bring. So that's the great mystery. So people say, "Whoa, it's all freaking out." And no, it's like, well, what is tomorrow going to bring? What is Saturday going to bring? What is Sunday going to bring? It's the first of November. We don't know what's going to come up, but we got an idea. So Raven is the magic that allows us to see into that future, into that which is not yet taken form. So the say that again. The reversed is not to be taken lightly with upside down raven. It can mean that the boomerang is coming home to knock you in the head. If you have wished harm to somebody else, you better beware. You have asked for this harm to teach you a lesson of what it feels like. If you've been not wishing evil on somebody else, contrary raven may be bringing you a warning that you are not equipped to move into another level of consciousness until you have mastered the one you are currently working with. Now, if you're working with the cards that are in front of us, it may be that, you're the doer. Beaver's giving you the okay. You've got abundance from um, Buffalo. You've got the loyalty from the dog. You've got that which with the otter. Rabbit is just saying, be careful, hold still sometimes. And now, but here's Raven saying, you know, maybe, maybe you're not equipped to move into another level of consciousness until you've mastered the one you're currently working with. So, what could that mean? It could mean that what you're working with up to this point, you might need to just stop. Rabbit said stop. So you might need to stop and reconsider, do I have enough information to, to start a club? I think I can start a club. All I need is a few friends, and find a place where we can meet. And, and it sounds like a great idea, but then maybe you need to get some more information. That's a bad analogy, but so if um, Raven may be telling you that you have forgotten the magic of life and that you have settled into a mundane rut. So, is that what's going on? So, Rabbit has said, stop for a minute, or it's scared like deers in the headlamp. And then here's Raven upside down saying, maybe you have forgotten the magic of life. So, if this rut suits you, and you do not want to experience the extraordinary magic in your life, ask Raven to fly through your dreams and to give you a taste of its medicine. If you do, you may never be the same again. Contrary Raven may also portend a time of smoky, confused messages that you cannot see or hear because your intellect is insisting that magic is not real. And there are people who are like that too, who go, wow, I don't know. You say these cards, you're getting information for these cards. Well, that's some kind of hoodoo magic. You know, to write the contrary Raven, you may need to seek a trained shaman to clear the energy field you have created. You may need to block some negative energy sent by another person or cancel the harm you wished on somebody else. Hopefully, none of you have done that. So, cancel the negative energy in your life. Um, there may be some smoke in your eyes so that you can't see what's coming very clearly. Um, and maybe that Raven is telling you that you have forgotten the magic of life and you've settled into a mundane rut. Check that out. So, with that, those are the cards for this week. And, seems like there's something going on. We're gonna be building something. Don't know what, but if you're building something, heed those few things. But it's all good. I see all good in those cards this week.
Good cards. Good cards.
I think so. I do. I think so.
Mm-hmm.
I know for myself, that getting over this last time in the hospital, um, I'm getting along with my stent pretty well, thank you. But it is difficult at 73 to get back up and do like I was at 70.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I still have the gumption, still want to get up and go. So there are other folks that I know who are younger than me who have lost that gumption, and they've gotten in a rut and have gotten let the mundane get a hold of them, and not on purpose. It snuck up on them. But at my age, our age, and at younger ages too. But the older you get, it seems like it's easier for you because you're slower and you're older and you can't run as fast. But it seems like the mundane sneaks up on you like Miss Pac-Man, yakking, 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 and the next thing you know, you're in that rut.
Yeah.
So sometimes you need to shake it off. You need to stand up and look around and go, wait a minute, am I in a rut? Because it might be that the rut is so deep you can't see over the top of it. You got to stand up in order to see out the rut. And it might be that you like what you see. So hopefully you're not in that rut. And if so, get out of it. So I
Mm-hmm.
hope you like the story tonight.
It was good. It was good. Good story. I liked it. It was awesome. I think everybody else did too. So perfect. Perfect. Good cards. Good night. Yeah. It was all good. What do you think? Beaver. Beaver was on top of my list. Buffalo. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
Anyway.
but both of those were in the cards. Yep.
Yep. Um, Lucky says not enough fish. I think it's because fish doesn't really represent much. It's the fish, and no matter what you look at it, religion and stuff, or this or that, fish really never has a part to play except to be eaten. Because it's like it's a brainless, mindless animal. Correct? Kind of. At least that's how we represent it. There's tons and tons of them, but yet they really never serve a purpose except to swim in the water and be eaten. Right?
Yeah, but there are some open cards that, and in the book it says that these are the cards that they did, and that there's some open cards that you might choose shark, for example, or do we have dolphin in there?
Dolphin is in there.
Yeah. So and and whale, that's a big deal. You know, um, whale, goes all the way back from the days of Lemuria, and carries the ancient, the ancient records. So that's a pretty big deal. Whatever kind of fish you want, except the one that carries the library.
Yeah.
Well, there's a little fish over there. What's that one? Well, yeah, they'll teach you how to change the oil in your car, you know. Well, what about that big one over there? That's the library. You know, it's got everything in it. So which one's more important? The one that teaches you how to change your oil or the one that's the library? You know, so I see that as, you know, yeah, okay, fish in general can mean something, and I don't mean to downplay it, but whale's pretty significant.
Scotty Boy says, hee, Hawaiian for octopus. Well, we're going to learn all kinds of Hawaiian stuff. Hee and ha. Oh, I think, no, hee, octopus, the smartest animal on the planet. So there you go. But they say octopus might not even be from this planet because they're like not like anything else. Interesting facts. Lucky says added expansion edition has blue heron for self-reflection, raccoon for genius and protector, prairie dog for retreat, wild boar for confrontation, and salmon for inner wisdom and knowing.
That's blue heron.
Yeah.
It's a swamp bird.
Yep. An alligator for interrogation, jaguar for integrity and impeachability, and black panther for embracing the unknown. Now, they say that there could be black panthers in Florida that are still hidden in the swamps out there.
Oh, yeah. There's still black panther in the Apalachicola National Forest, which is just south of me. And the Ochlockonee River, and I'm on the little Ochlockonee River's in my backyard, that where the rivers, the swamps are adjacent to each other. And so all the way down the Ochlockonee River goes down to Ochlockonee Bay, which goes through the Apalachicola National Forest. So, you know, the black panther has been known to travel up and down the river banks, you know, and in the swamps. And so back in the day, you know, there are places around here, Panther Creek, Panther, you know, this, you know, and so and there are still black bear in the Apalachicola National Forest, and some of them actually have wandered into a couple of the neighborhoods in northern Tallahassee.
Wow.
And of course, we got some really big bobcats.
Oh, really? Wow.
They look like mountain lions. They're really big. They're not these little, and nuh-uh. These things stand 2 foot tall or more, you know. But sneaky.
Yeah.
You won't know that one of them bobcats is around you. Honest to goodness.
Huh. Really?
They are quiet. Oh, yes. Unbelievable how quiet they are.
It says here Florida panthers live in the forests and swamps in South Florida, particularly in areas with dense vegetation where they can hunt, hide, and their core population is in south of Lake Okeechobee. But their range includes places like the Everglades National Park, Big Cypress National Preserve, and the Florida Panther National Wildlife Refuge. Male panthers are occasionally documented as far as north as Georgia. So there you go. You're right on.
Which means us down here in South Georgia.
Yes.
But also the Okefenokee Swamp, you know. There's a lot of space over there, you know.
Yeah. Sorry. Big lynx are cats. Oh, there we go. Big lynx are cats. Cats. Interesting. That's why I always pack mountain. Yep. Yep. Well, anyway, that was good. Good cards tonight. Good show. Good story. Let's wrap her up. We're at 2 hours and 19 minutes. Holy cow, did we go tonight? Whew. Hot diggity dog. What do you think of that? Are you going to have a show tonight?
Maybe. I'll see. I got the cell phone charged up, so, and I got coffee in the kitchen, so, and I'm going to go get some more.
All righty then. All righty. I hope when I get older, I'm as spry as you at this late hour. But then again, hey, you can stay up late and sleep in. Why not? But Scotty Boy says, great show, Bob and Hawkeye. I love you both. Yes.
Thank you.
F. Kitty says, thanks, Robert, and thanks, Hawkeye. Now, remember, everybody, you can go get your Native American Myths and Legends shirt with Robert V and Hawkeye, and that says David Null is the best storyteller on YouTube with 11 million subscribers yet to be had. Oh, yeah.
There's 900 subscribers, so I'm very proud of that.
That's right. If you ain't subscribed to David, go over there to his channel, David Null channel, and subscribe over there, and he will catch up with you probably within the next 15 to 20 minutes and tell you a story or two and talk about the wisdom of the world. I don't know what the show will be about tonight, but hey, there's lots of things going on because it's the 31st probably in your neck of the woods, and it's Halloween, All Hallows Eve, and everybody's having a Halloween special but me. But we're going to be talking about some few things in the future, aliens and abductions, and you never know what else we're going to be talking about. Halloween is right around the corner. Saturday night we'll have a show. Saturday night, join me and Nina or whoever else I'm going to have on the show. We'll see you there Saturday night, 9 p.m. Central Time. Well, thank you, Hawkeye, for being here tonight. It's great to have you on. A little bit different day and different hour, but hey, we're here anyway. We don't disappoint, do we?
No, and this was 194?
Yes, it is.
So 195 next week.
Yep, 5 more episodes to the 200th edition where we will celebrate and invite everybody on who is Native American wants to be on. I don't know. Maybe we'll have a grand poobah on, in like the Flintstones, and we'll all wear buffalo skin hats with little horns on them. Right?
Drum.
That's right. I wish we could get we got to get some Native American guy on here to talk about stuff, somebody who's right in the thick of things, I'm going to have to really search into that. I got to get going on that. I got to get busy. If anybody out there, give me a shout out. And I got my email in the description on the below. Nina's links for the merch, like the Milky Way Soul Tribe shirts, the Native American shirts, holiday shirts are all on Streamlabs. Go get yours today. Give them as gifts. Hey, send David and me one, and we'll be happy to wear it here on the show. So there you go. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Hawkeye, for being on. We will see you all next week. Remember, go out and do something nice for somebody else. Besides that, do something nice for yourself. Because if you can't love yourself, you can't really love anybody else. You can't be for them if you don't even know how to take care of yourself. So that's my suggestion. And with that, remember, be the frequency you want to receive, everybody. Love you all. Peace, everybody.
Cheers.